Everything in front of me was becoming blurry. Marcus's hand was wrapped around my throat, and I was trying desperately to breathe, but nothing was working. This wasn't the first time, it was never the first time, but today he was angrier than usual. Maybe because I hadn't cooked dinner properly, or perhaps his day had gone badly. I didn't know, and honestly I didn't care anymore. All I knew was that if I said anything at all, this would only get worse. Chase. He spat my name like poison. Who do you think you are? I couldn't say anything because my voice was gone. My heart was shattered into pieces I couldn't count anymore. But then I remembered. Sam. My 5-year-old son, who was upstairs in his room. What if he saw all of this? What if he got scared? I didn't want him to witness the life I was living. This existence filled with nothing but pain and terror. Marcus shoved me hard, and I crashed to the floor. Pain shot through my lower back like fire spreading through dry wood, but I stayed silent because staying silent had become my survival mechanism. He walked away from me, probably to get another drink. I knew he wouldn't come back to the bedroom tonight, and honestly that was for the best. I slowly got up and looked toward the stairs. Sam's door was closed, and thank God he hadn't made any noise. Maybe he had fallen asleep, or maybe he hadn't heard anything at all. But I had a feeling I was just fooling myself, because my son was far too perceptive for his age. The next morning, when I brought Sam downstairs for breakfast, he looked at me with strange eyes. He didn't say anything, just stirred his cereal with his spoon and remained silent. This wasn't like my Sam, who always talked, always laughed, always filled our home with his innocent chatter. But today, there was something different in his eyes. Fear, confusion, and maybe even anger. Sam, sweetie, is everything okay? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He just nodded his head without looking at me. I couldn't force him to talk because I felt guilty. I suspected that maybe he had heard something last night. Maybe he had seen Marcus hurting me. The guilt squeezed my chest tight because I had wanted to keep all of this away from him. But I had failed miserably as a father. By afternoon, everything seemed normal on the surface. I cleaned the house, cooked meals, tried to keep Marcus's mood stable like I always did. But when my phone started ringing with a call from an unknown number, my heart sank because I had a strange feeling about this. "Hello?" I said, my voice trembling with fear. "Chase?" A voice came through, cold, deep, and dangerous. A voice that carried authority and power in every syllable. "Why, yes? Who is this?" "Your son, Sam. He sent me a message. He wrote, 'He's hurting my daddy. Please help us.'" My entire body turned to stone. My breath stopped, and I leaned against the wall for support. What had Sam done? He had messaged someone? He was a 5-year-old child who hadn't even learned to spell properly yet, but he had sent someone a message. I don't understand," I stammered. "You'll understand very soon. I'm coming." The address was in the message. "Keep the door unlocked." And the phone disconnected. I stood there frozen, phone still in my hand, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribcage. Who had Sam messaged? And this person, he was coming. Who was coming? A complete stranger was coming to my house, and I had no idea what to do. If Marcus found out about this, he would kill both me and Sam without hesitation. I rushed upstairs to Sam's room and opened the door. He was playing with his toys, but when he saw me, there was that fear in his eyes that tore me apart from the inside. "Sam, baby." I started, trying to keep my voice as normal as possible. "Did you send someone a message?" He became quiet and looked down at his hands. "Daddy, that man was hurting you. I heard it last night." I got scared. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces, and I sat down next to him on the floor. "Baby, who did you send a message to?" "I don't know. There were messages on your phone. I sent one to a number. I wrote that he was hurting you and we needed help." Tears welled up in his eyes. "Daddy, did I do something wrong?" I pulled him into my arms and tried desperately not to cry. "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. You were very brave. But now, whoever comes to the door, you don't need to be afraid. Okay?" Sam nodded, but there was still fear swimming in his innocent eyes. I left him in his room and came back downstairs, and all I could think about was, who was coming? What if it was some dangerous person? What if he tried to hurt Sam? That's when the doorbell rang, and my entire body caught fire with panic. I walked toward the door, my hands shaking uncontrollably, and when I opened it, what I saw made my breath stop completely. A man stood there almost 6 feet tall with wide shoulders, a sharp jawline and eyes that seemed to see directly into my soul. His aura was so powerful that I instinctively stepped back. He wore a black suit that looked expensive, and behind him stood 2 bodyguards who looked like statues carved from stone. "Chase?" he asked, and his voice had the same authority that had been on the phone. "Why, yes. Who are you?" I asked, trying to close the door slightly. "Declan. Your son sent me a message." "Sam sent me a message." Declan. That name echoed in my ears like a warning bell that wouldn't stop ringing. I couldn't say anything because my brain was desperately trying to process who this man was and what he wanted from us. I'm sorry. Sam sent you a message by mistake. He's only 5 years old." "A mistake?" He cut me off, raising one eyebrow. "It wasn't a mistake. He was absolutely right. And I'm here because someone is hurting you." My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. This man was speaking with such certainty, as if he knew everything, as if he had already seen my wounds and scars. I couldn't understand how he could be so confident about something he knew nothing about. You should please leave. If Marcus sees you here," I said, looking at him with desperation. "Marcus?" Declan's eyes sharpened when he heard the name. "Who is he?" He's my boyfriend." The word felt like ash in my mouth. Boyfriend? He was my jailer, my torturer, my nightmare made flesh. Declan took one step forward and came very close to me. I could smell his cologne, a combination of wood and musk that made my head spin. He was so close that I forgot how to breathe, and his presence made me feel weak in ways I didn't understand. "Chase," he said in a slow and dangerous tone. His eyes locked onto mine. "If this Marcus of yours lays a hand on you, then after tonight he will never make that mistake again. This is my promise to you." My entire body burned from the intensity radiating from him. Who was this man? And why was he doing all of this for me when he didn't even know me? "Please. You don't understand. He's dangerous. If he finds out you're here—" I wanted to say more, but that's when Sam came downstairs. "Daddy, is that the man?" Sam asked, looking at Declan with curious eyes. Declan looked at Sam, and for the first time I saw something soft in his eyes. He knelt down to Sam's height and became eye level with my son. "You're Sam, right? You sent me the message. You're very brave," Declan said, and his voice was completely gentle now. Sam nodded. "Will you help my daddy?" "Yes. I definitely will. You just have to trust me, okay?" Sam smiled, and I could see that my son had already started trusting Declan. But I was still confused and terrified about what was going to happen next. That's when we heard the sound of a car outside. Marcus's car. My heart stopped beating. He's here," I said, panic clear in my voice. Declan stood up, and his entire body language transformed in an instant. He now looked even more dangerous, like a predator preparing for his prey. "Sam, go upstairs. Go to your room and don't come nuts. Understood?" he said in a firm voice that left no room for argument. Sam looked at me and I nodded quickly. He went upstairs without asking questions, and I stood there with Declan as Marcus entered the house. When Marcus saw Declan, his eyes filled with both confusion and rage. "Who is this?" he asked me, but his gaze was fixed on Declan, challenging him. "I'm Declan." Declan answered himself, his tone calm but laced with danger. "And you're the man who hurts Chase." Marcus's face turned red with anger, and he moved toward Declan. "This is my house. What right do you have to be here? And this is my personal business." Declan gave a dangerous smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Personal business? When you physically hurt someone, that becomes a criminal offense, and I'm very good at handling people like you." Marcus scoffed. "Are you a cop? Show me your badge." "No," Declan said slowly. "I'm more dangerous than the police. I'm someone who can end your life and no one would ever know what happened." Fear flickered across Marcus's face, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. "Get out of here or I'll call the police." "The police?" Declan laughed. "Go ahead and try. But let me tell you something. My reach goes far beyond the police. You have 2 options. Either you leave quietly and never contact Chase, or Sam again, or I'll send you somewhere from which there's no return." I could see that Marcus was genuinely scared now, but he tried to maintain his composure. Chase belongs to me. He's not going anywhere. Declan took one step toward Marcus, and his presence was so intimidating that Marcus actually stepped backward. Chase doesn't belong to anyone. And from now on, he's under my protection. If you even think looking in his direction again, I'll remind you exactly who I am. That moment felt completely unreal to me. For the first time, someone had stood up to Marcus and defended me. For the first time, I felt safe, and that feeling was making me weak in the knees. Marcus looked at me with fury burning in his eyes. Chase, this is a mistake. You don't know this man. But I didn't say anything because I was paralyzed with fear, and Declan answered for me. He's not afraid of me. He's afraid of you. And that's your biggest problem. Marcus stood there for a few more seconds, then angrily threw open the door and stormed out. But as he left, he gave me one final threat. This isn't over, Chase. When he was gone, my entire body started trembling, and I collapsed to the floor. Declan came over and placed his hand on my shoulder. Chase, you're safe now. I'm here. And for the first time in 3 years, I cried. I cried because I thought that maybe, just maybe, my life could actually change. Declan helped me sit on the sofa and brought me water from the kitchen. I was still shaking, and my mind kept repeating the same thoughts. Marcus would come back. He always came back, and each time he was angrier than before. Chase, look at me, Declan said, holding my hand. His touch was firm but comforting. Marcus won't come back. I'll make absolutely sure of that. You don't know him. He's dangerous. He has connections. I started to say, so do I, Declan interrupted. And I promise you, he won't hurt you or Sam ever again. But for this to work, you need to trust me. Can you do that? I looked into his eyes, and there I saw something I had never seen in Marcus. Sincerity. This man who didn't even know me was being so serious about protecting me. But I didn't have any other options. If I stayed with Marcus, I would die. Or worse, something would happen to Sam. I'll try, I said. Declan squeezed my hand slightly. That's enough. Now you and Sam are coming with me. Pack whatever is essential. We're leaving this place. What? Right now? I was shocked. Yes, right now. Marcus will come back, and I can't leave you here. I have a safe place where you and Sam can stay until I handle Marcus completely. I couldn't say anything because my brain was overwhelmed. But then I thought about Sam. If Marcus came back in a rage and hurt Sam, I would never forgive myself. No, I couldn't take that risk. All right, I finally said. I'll pack our things. In the next half hour, I packed clothes, documents and essential items for both Sam and myself. Sam understood that we were going somewhere, and he helped me without asking questions. He was small but incredibly mature for his age. Declan helped us into his car, a black SUV that looked extremely luxurious. His bodyguards were in a separate vehicle, and we left Marcus's house behind. I kept looking back, terrified that Marcus would suddenly appear. But he didn't. Throughout the entire drive, Sam sat quietly in the back seat, looking out the window. I kept staring at his small figure and felt overwhelming guilt. This child was suffering because of me, and I hadn't been able to give him a normal life. Chase, Declan said, glancing at me. You're overthinking everything. Sam is fine, and he'll be even better when no one is hurting you anymore. How do you understand me so well? I asked. Because I can see it in your eyes. You've been through so much, and you're still feeling guilty about everything. But Chase, nothing that happened was your fault. Marcus manipulated you. His words were true, but I couldn't stop blaming myself. Maybe I was weak. Maybe I deserved all of this suffering. Chase, Declan said again, this time with a firmer voice. You didn't deserve any of it. Never. And now you need to stop blaming yourself. Do you understand? I stayed quiet, but his words were starting to sink in. Maybe he was right. We arrived at Declan's penthouse, and when the elevator doors opened, I was absolutely amazed. This place looked like a movie set, large, modern, and luxurious beyond imagination. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the entire city, and the interior decoration was dark and sophisticated. Sam's eyes went wide. Daddy, this place is so big, he said excitedly, and for the first time there was genuine happiness in his voice. I smiled seeing his joy, and Declan noticed it too. Sam, you have your own room. Come on. Let me show you. Declan took us inside and showed Sam his bedroom. It was a room filled with toys, books, and even a small gaming setup. Sam's eyes lit up like stars. Is all of this for me? He asked. Yes. You can stay here as long as you want, Declan said. And his smile was genuine. Sam looked at me and I nodded. He immediately went inside and started exploring the toys, and I could see how happy he was. Declan showed me to the guest bedroom, which was also very spacious and comfortable. You'll stay here. If you need anything at all, just let me know. Declan, thank you so much. But I still don't understand why you're doing all of this for us. We're complete strangers to you. Declan looked into my eyes and his gaze was so intense that my heart started beating faster. Because when Sam sent me that message, it touched something inside me that I had forgotten existed for a very long time. It reminded me that there are things in life worth helping with. And when I saw you, Chase, I knew that you and Sam needed my help. So I decided I would help you. I couldn't say anything because my throat was tight with emotion. For the first time, someone had looked at me like I was more than just a victim. Thank you, Declan. I finally managed to say. He placed his hand on my shoulder. You don't need to thank me. Just take care of yourself and Sam. I'll handle everything else. That night, after Sam had fallen asleep, I sat in my room looking out the window. The city lights were so beautiful that I had almost forgotten what my life had been like just hours ago. It felt like I had escaped from a nightmare and entered some kind of dream. There was a knock, and Declan came in. What are you thinking about? He asked. Just processing everything. It all happened so fast that it feels like a dream. Declan came and stood near me, but not too close to the window. He maintained a respectful distance. This isn't a dream, Chase. This is reality. And now you should feel safe. I turned to look at him. Declan, who are you really? Where does all your power come from? Declan took a deep breath. I'll explain everything later. Right now, just know that I'm on your side. And Marcus can't hurt you anymore. There was so much confidence in his words that I felt maybe, just maybe, I was actually safe now. And for the first time in 3 years, I slept peacefully because I knew someone was protecting me. The next few days were strange because I was trying to understand Declan's life. He was out all day working on whatever his business was. But every night when he came back, he would talk to both me and Sam. We were developing a routine that made me feel comfortable, but I knew this situation was temporary. Marcus was still out there, and he wasn't the type to just give up quietly. Sam had started really liking Declan, and he called him Uncle Declan. Declan also spent time with Sam like he was his own son, playing video games, reading stories, and asking him about school. It was wonderful to watch because Sam had never felt like he had a protector before. Marcus had never shown him love, only ignored him completely. One day, when Sam was at school and I was alone at home, Declan called me into his study. I went nervously because I thought maybe he wanted to discuss something serious. Chase, sit down, he said, standing up from his chair. I sat down and my eyes fell on the files on his desk. There were Marcus's photos and documents that made me feel uncomfortable. I've been investigating Marcus, Declan began. Everything you told me was true. Marcus is genuinely dangerous. He has illegal dealings, drugs, smuggling, and other things. He also has police connections that have been scaring you. My heart sank. So, what's going to happen? He'll never stop. Declan looked into my eyes. He will stop, because I'm dealing with him. But before I continue, I need to tell you something. You need to know the truth about who I am. I looked at him and my heart started beating faster. What do you mean? Declan took a deep breath and sat in his chair. Chase, I'm a legitimate businessman, but I also have underworld connections. Technically, I'm connected to the Mafia. Actually, I'm the head of a syndicate that handles illegal dealings. It's dangerous. It's complicated, but this is my life. My heart stopped. Mafia? Declan was a mafia boss? I couldn't understand anything, and my mind was filled only with confusion. You're a criminal? My voice was shaking. Technically, yes. But I only hurt people who deserve it. I never hurt innocent people, and I follow rules in my business. My syndicate doesn't traffic drugs or humans. We're only involved in illegal arms and money laundering for high-profile clients. I couldn't say anything because this information was overwhelming. This man who had saved me, who Sam liked so much, who was doing so much for us, he was a criminal. Chase, I understand that you're scared. Declan continued. But I want you to know I will never hurt you. And I will never let Marcus come near you again. My power and connections exist so that I can protect you. I closed my eyes and took a breath. My mind was spinning out of control. What should I do? Should I stay where I felt safe, or should I run away from a man who was himself a criminal? But then I thought about Sam. If I left here, where would I go? Marcus would find me again, and then I would be in an even worse situation. And Declan, he had never hurt me. On the contrary, he had protected me. Declan, I said slowly, I'm confused, but I know that you've done a lot for me. And for Sam too. I just want to ask you one thing. Will you truly never hurt me? Declan stood up from his chair and came close to me, sitting in front of me. He held my hand, and his touch was calming me down. Chase, I will never hurt you. This is my promise. You and Sam have become important to me, and I will protect you more than my own life. The sincerity in his eyes melted my heart. Maybe Declan was genuinely different. Maybe he was only a criminal because of his work. But as a person, he was good. All right, I said. I'll stay here. But I need time to understand all of this. Declan smiled, a soft understanding smile. Take as much time as you need. I'm not going anywhere. After he left, I went to my room and lay on the bed. My brain was still processing what was happening. But one thing was clear to me. Declan had saved both me and Sam, and I could never forget his kindness. Over the next few nights, I started observing Declan more closely. He genuinely spent time with Sam, and he also spoke to me respectfully. He never made any inappropriate moves, and he never pressured me about anything. He was just present, and that feeling, that presence, was slowly making me feel comfortable. One night after Sam had gone to sleep, I was sitting in the living room reading a book. Declan came out of his study and sat next to me. Chase, I need to tell you something, he said slowly. What? I asked, closing my book. Declan looked into my eyes, and I couldn't escape his gaze. I'm feeling something for you. Ever since I saw you, ever since I heard your and Sam's story, I felt like you both brought a purpose into my life. I never thought I could get so attached to someone. But you're different. My heart stopped beating. Was Declan saying, did he like me? Declan? I don't know what to say, I said hesitantly. Don't say anything right now, he said. Just think about it. Can you give me a chance? A chance to show you that I'm different from Marcus? That I genuinely care about you. The sincerity in his eyes was making me weak. I knew this was complicated. Declan was a criminal, and I was a simple man who just wanted a normal life with his son. But still, something was pulling me toward Declan. Declan, I need time. I'm not ready right now, I finally said. Declan gently squeezed my hand. I'll wait, Chase. However long you need. I'm not going anywhere. And that night, when I went to my room, my heart was feeling something completely different. Maybe, just maybe, I was developing feelings for someone again. And this feeling, this sensation, was both terrifying and exciting at the same time. The following days felt surreal, like I was living in someone else's life. Declan spent his days handling business. I didn't fully understand, but every evening he returned to us with the same quiet intensity that both calmed and unsettled me. Sam had started calling him Uncle Declan with such natural ease that it made my chest ache. Watching them together, playing video games, reading bedtime stories, discussing Sam's school day, I saw something I'd never witnessed before. My son had found a protector, someone who genuinely cared whether he was happy or scared or excited about tomorrow. Marcus had never been that person. Marcus had barely acknowledged Sam's existence unless my son's laughter annoyed him or his presence inconvenienced him. Now seeing Declan kneel down to Sam's eye level to listen to a story about playground adventures, I felt something crack open inside me. This was what family was supposed to look like. One afternoon, while Sam was at school and the penthouse felt too large and too quiet, Declan appeared in the doorway of the living room where I'd been pretending to read the same page for 20 minutes. Can we talk? He asked. In my study, my stomach nodded immediately. Those words, can we talk, had always preceded something terrible with Marcus. But Declan's expression wasn't angry or cruel. It was careful, measured, like he was about to share something that mattered. I followed him into his study, a room dominated by dark wood furniture and shelves lined with books I suspected he'd actually read. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk, and I sat noticing the manila folders spread across the surface. My breath caught when I recognized Marcus's face in one of the photographs. "I've been investigating Marcus," Declan began without preamble, settling into his own chair. "Everything you told me was accurate. He's dangerous, Chase, but not just because of his temper. He runs drugs through the Port District, has laundering operations connected to 3 legitimate businesses, and maintains relationships with corrupt officers in 2 precincts." The room felt like it was tilting. "So he'll never stop. He has too much protection." Had, Declan corrected, his voice dropping into something harder. Past tense. "But before I explain how I've handled this, you need to understand something about me. You deserve the truth before you decide whether to stay under this roof." My hands gripped the armrests. "What truth?" He leaned back, and for the first time since I'd met him, Declan looked almost vulnerable. "I'm not just a businessman, Chase. I operate in the underworld. I run a syndicate that controls illegal arms distribution across the eastern seaboard, money laundering for high-level clients who can't use traditional banking. My reach extends into places most people don't even know exist." The words hit me like physical blows. "You're telling me you're part of organized crime." "I'm telling you I lead organized crime in this region," he said quietly. "I don't deal in drugs or human trafficking. Those are lines I won't cross. But what I do is still illegal, still dangerous, and I'm giving you this information because you need to make an informed choice about whether you and Sam stay here." My mind raced through implications, consequences, the sheer weight of what he was revealing. This man who had saved us, who made Sam laugh, who looked at me like I was worth protecting. He was a criminal. Not just connected to criminals, but someone who commanded them. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally managed. "Because secrets poison everything eventually," Declan said. "And because you've already been trapped by one man's lies. I won't be another cage for you, Chase. If you want to leave, I'll arrange protection. A new identity if necessary. You and Sam will be safe either way, but you deserve to choose with full knowledge of who I am." I stood up, needing to move, needing the room to make sense. "Marcus could have killed us. Multiple times. And you stopped him. How?" "I made it clear that touching you again would result in consequences he couldn't survive. I provided evidence of his operations to federal contacts ones he doesn't own. And I made sure he understood that my reach exceeds his. He's currently being held without bail on trafficking charges that will keep him away for decades." "You did all of that in a matter of days." "Yes." I turned to face him fully. "And what do you want from me in return?" Declan stood as well, coming around the desk but maintaining distance. "Nothing. There's no transaction here, Chase. I'm not Marcus. I'm not holding Sam's safety over your head, or expecting you to be grateful enough to tolerate mistreatment. I'm simply offering you a choice." The sincerity in his voice threatened to undo me completely. "I don't understand why you care. We're nobody to you." "That's not true," he said, and something raw flickered across his face. "From the moment I read Sam's message, from the moment I walked into that house and saw the fear in your eyes, you became someone to me. I can't explain it beyond that. But you're not nobody, Chase. Not to me." The silence between us felt heavy with things neither of us knew how to articulate. Finally I spoke. "I need time to process this. But I'm not leaving. Not yet." Relief softened his features. "Take all the time you need. Nothing changes unless you want it to." That evening, after Sam had gone to bed with a new book Declan had bought him, I sat in the living room while Declan worked in his study. My mind kept circling back to his confession, trying to reconcile the man who gently helped my son with homework and the man who controlled criminal operations. They seemed like 2 different people occupying the same body. Around midnight, Declan emerged and found me still awake, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much to think about." He settled into the chair across from me, keeping that respectful distance he always maintained. "Ask me anything. No question is off limits." "Have you killed people?" "Yes." No hesitation, no justification. Just honesty. "Do you regret it?" "Some of them. The ones who turned out to be innocent of what I'd been told. But most of them? No. They were predators. Chase. They hurt people who couldn't defend themselves." I absorbed this, testing how it felt. "And you see yourself as what? Some kind of vigilante?" "I see myself as someone who operates in gray spaces, that the law can't reach. I'm not a hero, but I'm not Marcus either. No, I agreed. You're definitely not Marcus. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in his usual composed exterior. I need you to understand my world is violent, dangerous, but I will never bring that violence to you or Sam. You're separate from all of it, protected from all of it. How can you guarantee that? Because I've spent 15 years building enough power that no one would dare. And because I would burn everything I've built before I'd let anyone harm either of you. The intensity of that statement stole my breath. This wasn't a man making empty promises. This was someone stating a fact as certain as gravity. I believe you, I whispered. Good. 'Cause I meant every word. We sat in comfortable silence after that, and I realized something had fundamentally shifted. The fear that had defined my life for 3 years was finally beginning to dissolve. Declan wasn't Marcus. He wasn't safe, not in the conventional sense, but he was honest. He was controlled, and he was choosing to use his considerable power to protect rather than harm. As I finally headed to my room, I paused in the doorway. Declan, thank you for telling me the truth. You deserved nothing less, he replied, and I believed him. Several weeks passed, and the dynamic between Declan and me evolved into something I couldn't quite name. It wasn't just gratitude anymore, though that remained. It was something warmer, more complex, something that made my pulse quicken when he entered a room or made eye contact across the dinner table while Sam chattered about his day. Marcus had been formally charged, and Declan's lawyers assured me the case was airtight. The man who had controlled my life through fear and violence would spend the next 30 years in federal prison. For the first time since Sam was born, I could breathe without that constant weight on my chest. Sam had transformed. His teacher called to tell me his participation in class had skyrocketed, that he'd made 3 new friends, that he seemed genuinely happy. At home he laughed constantly, asked for help with homework without flinching, and had stopped checking every room for signs of danger before relaxing. Watching my son become the child he was meant to be made me fall apart in the best possible way. Declan and I had fallen into routines that felt dangerously domestic. He'd come home from whatever dark business occupied his days, and we'd cook dinner together while Sam did homework at the kitchen island. We'd eat as a family, then Declan would help Sam with math while I cleaned up. Evenings were spent with Sam between us on the couch, watching movies or reading, until bedtime when Declan would carry a sleepy Sam to his room while I followed to tuck him in. After Sam slept, Declan and I would talk. He told me about his childhood, about losing his parents and younger sister in a car accident when he was 13, about being passed through foster homes until he aged out of the system. He explained how he'd been recruited into organized crime at 17, how he'd risen through ranks by being smarter and more ruthless than anyone expected a kid to be. I shared my own story meeting Marcus in college when I was young and stupid enough to mistake possessiveness for passion, getting pregnant at 22, gradually realizing I'd trapped myself with someone dangerous but not knowing how to escape. Declan listened without judgment, without the victim blaming I'd anticipated. One evening after we'd finished dinner and Sam was absorbed in building an elaborate structure with blocks in the living room, Declan handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. Already suspicious. "Open it." Inside was a property deed. A house. In my name. My hands started shaking. "I don't understand. It's a house in a good neighborhood, close to Sam's school. 3 bedrooms, a yard, completely paid for. It's yours, Chase. You don't have to stay here anymore." My throat closed up. "You're asking me to leave?" "What?" "No." Declan looked stricken. "I'm giving you independence. Options. You've been dependent on men your entire adult life. First Marcus, now me. I thought you'd want your own space. What if I don't?" The words escaped before I could stop them. Declan went very still. "What do you mean?" I set the deed on the table, forcing myself to meet his eyes. "What if I don't want to leave? What if I want to stay here with you? Chase, these past weeks have been the happiest of my life. Sam adores you." I stopped, terrified of admitting too much. "You what?" Declan asked softly, moving closer. "I feel safe with you. More than safe. I feel like myself for the first time in years. And I don't want that to end." Declan reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and took my hands in his. "You're not a burden to me. You and Sam living here, it's the best part of my day. Staying home to you both is the only thing that makes the rest of it bearable. If you want to stay, I want you to stay. Really? Chase, I haven't just been protecting you. I've been falling for you. Every conversation, every smile, every time you show Sam the kind of love he deserves, I fall a little harder. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. I'm falling too. It terrifies me, but I can't help it. You don't have to be terrified. I'm not him. I know you're not. That's why I can feel this way at all. Declan lifted one hand to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. Can I kiss you? The fact that he asked, that he waited for permission, made my eyes sting. Yes, the kiss was gentle at first, questioning, giving me space to change my mind. But when I pressed closer, my hands fisting in his shirt, it deepened into something that made the world fall away. This wasn't like Marcus's aggressive, possessive kisses that took without asking. This was mutual, respectful, overwhelming in the best way. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Declan rested his forehead against mine. Was that okay? More than okay, I managed. It was perfect. Can we do it again? I laughed, actually laughed, and pulled him back to me. Later, after we'd moved to the couch and spent an embarrassing amount of time making out like teenagers while Sam remained blissfully absorbed in his blocks, Declan pulled back to look at me seriously. I want this to be real. Not just protection or gratitude or proximity. A real relationship. So do I admitted. But I need us to go slow. I'm still figuring out how to be a person instead of a victim. We'll go at whatever pace you need. There's no rush, Chase. I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, Sam noticed something had shifted between us. Over breakfast, he looked back and forth between Declan and me, his 5-year-old brain clearly processing. Are you two together now? He asked bluntly. Like together. I nearly choked on my coffee. Declan, to his credit, didn't even blink. Would that be okay with you? Declan asked him. Sam considered this seriously. Will you still play video games with me? Of course. And read me stories? Every night. And help with my homework? Whenever you need it. Sam nodded decisively. Then it's okay. I like when you're both happy. And you're both happy now. Out of the mouths of children. I reached across the table to squeeze Sam's hand, overwhelmed by his perceptiveness and maturity. Yes, baby. We're both happy now. Declan caught my eye over Sam's head, his smile soft and genuine. Very happy. And sitting there in that sun-filled kitchen, the three of us together, I realized Sam was absolutely right. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I was genuinely, completely happy. The future felt uncertain in some ways. Declan's world would always be dangerous, complicated, outside the law. But I trusted him in a way I'd never trusted anyone. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. As a family, the following months transformed my life in ways I'd never imagined possible. Declan kept his word about supporting my independence, helping me launch the small cafe I'd always dreamed of opening. He provided the initial capital but insisted I run every aspect of the business myself, refusing to let me become dependent on him financially the way I'd been dependent on Marcus. The cafe thrived beyond my wildest expectations. Customers loved the homemade pastries I'd spent years perfecting in Marcus's kitchen, never allowed to pursue professionally. Now watching people enjoy something I'd created, earning money through my own work, I felt a pride that brought tears to my eyes some mornings. Sam excelled in school, bringing home report cards that featured not just good grades but teacher comments about his kindness, creativity, and leadership. He'd made a best friend named Tyler, who came over for playdates during which both boys treated Declan like a jungle gym, climbing on him while he pretended to be a monster chasing them through the penthouse. Declan and I had settled into our relationship with surprising ease. We'd agreed to take things slow, which meant we maintained separate bedrooms and kept physical intimacy to kissing and holding each other on the couch after Sam went to bed. Declan never pushed for more, seemingly content to let me set every boundary and timeline. But as weeks turned into months, I found those boundaries shifting. I wanted more. I wanted the life we'd been building to become permanent, official, real in every sense. One evening after Sam had gone to sleep, I found Declan in his study reviewing documents. He looked up when I entered, smiled and gestured for me to come in. Everything okay? He asked. I've been thinking, I started, then paused, suddenly nervous. About us. About the future. Declan set down his pen, giving me his full attention. What about it? I want to make this official. Not just for Sam's sake, though he deserves that stability. For us. I want us to be a real family. Legally and in every other way. Something blazed in Declan's eyes. Bright and fierce. Are you sure once we take that step, my enemies might see you and Sam as targets? Your enemies already know we exist. And you've kept us safe so far. I trust you, Declan. Completely. He stood and came around the desk, pulling me into his arms. I've wanted to ask you for weeks, but I didn't want to pressure you. Ask me now, I whispered. Chase, will you let me be yours? Will you be mine? Will you let me adopt Sam and make us a family in every legal sense? Yes, I said without hesitation. To all of it, yes. The kiss that followed was different from all the others. It held promise, commitment, a future spreading out before us. When Declan lifted me onto his desk, scattering papers, I didn't stop him. When his hands found the hem of my shirt, I helped him remove it. We made love slowly, carefully, with the kind of tenderness I'd never experienced. Afterward, lying in his bed for the first time, Declan held me close and whispered, I love you. I know it's fast, but I love you. I love you too, I replied, and meant it with everything in me. The next morning we told Sam together. His reaction was to pump his fist in the air and yell, yes, at the top of his lungs. Does this mean Declan is going to be my dad officially? He asked, bouncing with excitement. If you want that, Declan said. We'd have to do some paperwork. But yes, I could adopt you. I want that. Can I call you Dad now? Declan's eyes went suspiciously bright. I would love that more than anything. Sam launched himself at Declan, who caught him easily, and they held each other while I tried not to cry. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Safe, happy, full of love instead of fear. The legal proceedings took several weeks. Declan's lawyers navigated the adoption paperwork while simultaneously handling the documents that would make our relationship recognized by law. We had quiet conversations about what to tell Sam about Declan's work, ultimately deciding on a version of the truth appropriate for his age. That Declan handled business that sometimes required secrecy, but that he would always keep us safe. The day the adoption became final, we celebrated with Sam's favorite dinner and a cake from my cafe. Sam insisted on making a speech, standing on his chair with all the gravity his 6 years could muster. Thank you, Dad, for being the best dad ever. And thank you for making my daddy happy. He smiles all the time now, and before you came, he almost never smiled. I was openly crying by then, and Declan's arm around my waist was the only thing keeping me upright. 3 months later, we held a small celebration, just a few close friends and some of Sam's school friends with their parents. It wasn't a wedding exactly, since legal marriage wasn't an option for us, but it was a commitment ceremony that meant just as much. Sam stood between us, beaming with pride as we exchanged simple vows about choosing each other every day, about building a life together, about being a family. That night, after the guests had left and Sam had finally crashed in his bed surrounded by new toys, Declan and I stood in the living room, swaying to music only we could hear. Happy? He asked, deliriously. I admitted, sometimes I'm terrified I'll wake up and discover this was all a dream. It's real, Declan promised. This is your life now, Chase. Our life. We built this together, starting with a text message from a 5-year-old to a complete stranger, the best wrong number I ever received. I laughed against his chest. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Sam hadn't sent that message? If he'd reached someone else, or no one at all? I try not to, Declan admitted, because it terrifies me, but I'm grateful every single day that he found me. That you let me in. That we built this. Me too. We stood there for a long time, just holding each other until Declan pulled back to look at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. What? I asked. Nothing. Just memorizing this moment. You. Here, happy. Sam asleep in his room, safe and loved. This family we built from nothing. I want to remember exactly how this feels. It feels like home, I said simply. Yes. Declan agreed. It feels like home. And it was true. This penthouse that had once felt temporary, a way station between one life and the next, had become home. Not because of the expensive furniture or the stunning views, but because of the people inside it. Declan, who'd somehow seen past my brokenness to the person I could become. Sam, who'd been brave enough to ask a stranger for help when he saw his father hurting. And me, who'd finally learned that being loved didn't have to hurt. Our story had started with violence, fear, and desperation. But it had become something beautiful, something worth fighting for, worth building on, worth cherishing. It had become love. Real, transformative, healing love. And that was everything.